Welcome to a new Harry's Garage video, and today's car is this, the Bentley Flying Spur. This is their ultimate four-door, five-seater car, ultimate expression of Bentley, 207 miles an hour and 5.3 meters long. Awful lot of Bentley to discuss here. And this has been sort of off the back of the new Continental GT that was launched back in 2018. This is rocked up, and it's a sea change from what went before. Can't wait to get into the details of the car because there's so much has changed. I was looking everywhere for the sort of press information on this car, couldn't find it, but even that, here we are, it's a leather-lined document. And I can tell you that this car lists at £168,300. As you might guess, being a press car, there's a few extras on it, etc. But yeah, can't wait to get into the details. There's a lot of tech to get through with this car. So let's go and have a closer look. This particular car looks really quite distinctive because it's got the black line specification. So that's sort of this black grille, this illuminated flying B here pops out as you unlock the car, and the black line going up. Ultimate silver, this colour, and I think it does show off the car really well. 21-inch wheels come as standard, these enormous great brakes on it, the same we saw in the Conti GT. There's a lot of stopping to do here. P0 tyres, because obviously it's with 207 mile an hour capability, and 8.2 seconds to 100 is what was claimed. There's a lot of performance there, so it's distinct performance tyres. I do like that stylised B as well, that vent on the front looks really very good. It's just so huge, and they have this incredible superform aluminium panels on this, but this crease is very distinctive. I mean, the lights are really showing it off in here. Slightly disappointed at the tail, I suppose. It has echoes of previous generation Conti GT, no spoiler, no nothing, and then these black finish exhaust here, these oval exhausts, almost can hardly see them, they just look part of the trim. Yeah, quite a distinctive car. People do comment on the design of it. Just lift the bonnet. And there we go, the W12. So this is a 6-litre engine. These sets of 6 and 6, Banco 6.6, it's W12 configuration, unique now to Bentley, and putting out 626 horsepower. All sorts of tech in there, cylinder deactivation, variable cams, etc. What really impresses me is the turbo engine, and it's 10.5:1 compression ratio that in old school you just couldn't combine being a turbocharged car with such a high compression ratio. But anyway, Bentley are very clever and they've managed it. Other things to note in here is this huge aluminium strut linking the two bits of suspension. I noticed I can't remove it, but you can see the wheel down there. It's sort of, quite remarkable how it must have to vent a lot of hot air from the engine compartment, and it sort of does it to the side. Mighty impressive. They managed to get it further back in the chassis with this configuration as well. And a lot of things are aluminium. So I've been around with my magnet trying to work out what's aluminium. And most of the exterior panels are on this car. Just one thing of note, this is a huge expansive grille. I'm a bit disappointed it's all plastic this. It doesn't look quite Bentley-esque. I can remember previous generations of Bentley, this would have been metal. Whether it's a crash thing or something, I don't know, but it just looks a bit Audi rather than Bentley to me. Then come round here. Another thing to note, this aluminium, I wanted to know how much of this car was aluminium, and if you open if you look here, this is all aluminium, this panel, and you look how the doors, the actual window area is shrunk. And it's one of the things when you do use aluminium, you have to use more of it. So this is, the actual structure is aluminium. And if you look inside, suddenly you see, well, where's the seat gone? The driver's seat is sort of tucked back there. If you look on the other side, the B pillar is actually part of the interior. You don't normally notice it on a car, but how small the doors are and how massive these B pillars are. Absolutely huge. And that's just something that happens with aluminium cars. You basically need more volume to meet the crash legislation, and it shrinks the space that you climb into the car, and also makes the pillars very big, as we'll see when we're out on the road. As I said before, I'm surprised there's no rear spoiler. With a 207 mile an hour car, there is nothing aero going on here. It's a very slippery car, 0.29 CD factor, huge boot as you'd imagine, Under here is also an equally huge battery as well. Sorry, no spare wheel and a ski hatch should you be off doing that sort of thing. So there you go, 5.3 meters of Bentley. That's 100 mil longer than the long wheelbase Range Rover. An awful lot of car. I weighed it. It came out, I think, at 2,371 kilos, which is a bit lighter than Bentley quote. I think they quote 2,437 kilos, but they use an EU weight, which includes 90% fuel and 75 kilos for the driver. So although it's a huge car, because of the use of aluminium, it's sort of lighter than you'd expect at that. It's about a little bit heavy. It's about 100 kilos heavier than the Conti GT. But anyway, what we're going to do now, take it outside, show you around the interior, and then take it for a drive. Now, normally at this point I'll just jump in and drive off, but I want to show you the rear seat, because the rear seat area in this Bentley is a bit special. First of all, I'm just going to start the engine, because then everything will work when we go in the back. Now, first thing to note, have a look at the size of the rear door to the front door. That's that big. And then the rear door is this big. Huge amount of space, very easy to get in and out of, and pretty plush. Now that's my seating position there, miles of space. As you get a little thing here to adjust. You can control the sound, etc., and temperature there. Seat controls are here. This is the 5-seater version, so slightly strangely, some Corso is meant to sit in the middle seat position, which isn't nearly as plush as where I am, but I'm going to pull this down, and then I get that, which is a normal thing with a bit of hole there, and put your champagne fruits in there or whatever. And then this seat does everything. I can recline, headrest goes up, got a vent in the door here, lovely metal controls down here. If you see all this knurledness going on here, a very nice place to sit, and ridiculously plush headrest there, which is pillow-like. Other things just to note on this particular one, I've got a glass roof. I've got this as well, a little mirror, final corrections. Not sure what I've got in there. I think that puts the blind up there. And then the final thing, if you just look at this window, obviously it's up at the moment. If I touch this button, I love how you've got these two blinds working like that to completely black out the rear compartment. So there you go. It's a very nice place to sit in the back of this Bentley. But what I'm going to deal with now is what happens in the front. Very different up front. It feels much more enclosed. Do you know, it's just because of that sort of smaller door or something. But in the Conti GT, you had the same sort of thing. This is quite high, this centre console, and it's whoa, it's all going on. As I say, when I had that Conti GT, I couldn't get over its interior, and it's the same here. It's just this beautifully finished interior. This is piano black, they term it, the trim on this one. It is a large number of buttons actually on here, but it does have its party piece, which is this screen rotates, and I don't know, I just think it's ace. You do that and suddenly you've got this temperature gauge, compass and stopwatch that I haven't worked out how to work. It is a bit of an eye test, the temperature gauge. There is in tiny little trim there, 18.5 degrees I can see in a tiny little LCD readout, backlit. But Bentleys of the past have had the temperature gauge like that. I had a Conti T, and that has a lovely gauge on this big giant centre console. Small wheel as well. I love how they've managed to shrink the airbag as well. It's hardly noticeable. You think where we were in the late 90s, early 90s, these huge great airbags that were basically the size of the wheel. Now, little tiny thing there that just looks like a horn push on an old car. What else do we see? Yeah, it's slightly odd here. We have this thing that for your armrest, and you think it lifts up, but actually, yeah, there's no centre bin on this. Your storage is under here. You put your phone here. I thought it would be cordless charging, but it's not. You quite find on BMWs, Teslas and things, but not on this one. You actually still have to plug your phone in. Glove box.
nothing else. But just lovely, absolutely lovely. And when you turn it off, if you do have this screen option, I want to just go through the options. You turn it off, that does that lovely rotation and just finishes off, disappears. Really nice. Yeah, going back to my crib sheet, because I didn't really discuss the options on this car. So 168,300 list for the car. Running the driving specification, £9,535. That adds quite a few things, including the sort of leather trim and this sort of diamond look in sort of 3D on the doors. This stitching, amount of stitching, diamond stitching on the seats as well. The 21-inch wheels, you get that with a black and bright finish. What else? Leather headliner. Well, it's not much of a headliner because I've got the glass roof. And fuel filler cap in special finish where it's metal and embroidered Bentley emblems. Touring spec is also on this car, £6,290, lane assist, horrid thing, adaptive cruise control, bit better, Bentley Safeguard Plus, night vision and heads up display. What else have we got? Rotating display. I'm afraid you have to add £4,770 to the list price because it's 100%. You're going to have that. Panoramic roof, a relatively bargain, £2,500, making a grand total for this car of £94,950. Anyway, let's get going. Move that back, move away. Now, 8-speed dual clutch transmission, and I can sort of tell that it is a dual clutch transmission rather than a torque converter. It just has a slight hesitation. Oh, I love that little tug it does on the seatbelt. Slight hesitation when you're shuffling between reverse and going forward when you're just manoeuvring, which is a characteristic of the 8-speed. Anyway, I'm going to dive out of here and then you'll join us on some slightly better roads. Traffic lights, and even though it's a dual clutch transmission, there is a degree of creep, as you can see. I can just take my foot off the brake and gently creep forward. Quite nicely done. Down here I've got this choice of how I have the car set up. I have Sport, Bentley mode, or Comfort, or Custom. Comfort is very good actually. I mean, you would expect 2.4 ton of car to squash most bumps, and it does a remarkable job. It is supremely comfortable. That longer wheelbase sort of helps as well. I have it in the Bentley setting. It's got trick 48 volt anti-roll bar system that basically gets rid of the anti-roll bars effect when you're just travelling down the road, and they kick in when it detects the car is going to roll slightly as you go into a corner or whatever, and that really helps the ride as well. But it's just the hushness, the typical Bentley waft is there. View out is interesting. At the front, with Rolls Royce, you very definitely see the Flying Spur, the symbol. The Bentley, the Flying B, because the bonnet sort of curves down, I can only just see the top of it. It's not quite as impressive from behind the wheel as I was expecting. As you used to get in old style Mercs and things. And this is where this is a shop I might as well be in the Countach. I cannot see because of the size of that B pillar. Yes, there's a camera there as well, but it really compromises vision. And if you just want to look at this area and the big door mirror there, that bit and the size of the these pillars just coming into traffic. I've got this roundabout here. They are big chunks of metal that could quite happily hide things. And the thing about the Conti GT is it's a pillarless coupe, and you don't get any of this bulk. So it's a very different look out from the wheel, just because of the way this car is configured and the fact it's this aluminium construction. One bit that's really good on it, and that is it's got four-wheel steer, this car, and I've been just using it fairly local trips because obviously the lockdown is just all so different at the moment, and we did the shopping run with it, and I took it into the car park thinking, oh, this is going to be a bit of a game, But because I mean, it's a square thing, cameras are brilliant, and it's got four-wheel steer. It's got really quite a tight turning circle, just 11.3 metres I think it is. The last thing you expect from a giant Bentley like this. It did swell and take up the full car parking space. And one of the plus sides of having a smaller front door, I could at least get out. It's not its usual place. It did help that it had an enormous boot as well. There's proper performance available here. I am now going to put it into sport because there's the usual uphill blast just here, and this won't last very long because this car is 3.7 seconds to 60 miles an hour and 8.2 to 100 miles an hour, which is bordering on silly for a 2.4 ton four-door limo. So here we are, 30 miles an hour, and we go past, and full kick down. Oh. God. Yeah, that's that then. It's again from the Conti GT. That is where the dual clutch transmission really scores. Boof boof. Charging. This car has 900 Newton meters of torque. In old money, that's 643 foot-pound of torque. That is a huge amount, and it's basically beyond the capability of a normal conventional torque converter gearbox. But it does give this car a proper move on. Although I have noticed a slight hesitation sometimes on kickdown. It's got a lot of gears to shuffle through the 8. I can just use the manual's controls behind the wheel, but it just seems the wrong thing to do in this sort of car. And the other balmy thing I find is it's a very easy car to go too fast in all the time. It really, because you say, oh, I'm doing 65 now. I've taken my foot off the accelerator, but I'm still doing 64, 63. It takes forever to slow down. I don't know, it's got this superb CD value, and got that weight, and it's sort of slippery. It doesn't want to slow down. It just continues at that speed. There's no sort of engine braking, there's no sort of wind resistance. It just coasts. So yeah, you'll spend a lot of time looking at the speed. I think I'm really doing 70 miles an hour in a 60, or on the motorway 80 miles an hour when you shouldn't really be. And just turn in there. See there, it's in full laps mode, but that anti-roll just cut in. God, it makes a good noise as well. And I'm going too fast again, so I've got to slow down. Yes, that's what the Bentley Flying Spur, you do a lot on, slowing down, just because it just makes it effortless, speed just effortless. And because you're in something that shouldn't be this quick, it catches you out by surprise. Oh, it does a funny little shuffle sometimes on that gearbox. I'm in sport again. Just again round here. Turn in. I'm not sure which is more impressive. It's anti-roll or it's ride quality. Combination of the two, but the chassis engineers have done a sterling job on this car. Anyway, trying to summarise this car. What don't I like about it? Well, I still haven't got used to the looks. They are imposing at best, I suppose. Side profile is its best profile, I think. Front on, I just think that grille was overdone, and it doesn't really help being in black. I thought it would help. I like the headlights, etc. And then round the back looks a bit bland. It just looks Audi-esque, Skoda-esque. I don't know what it is, but I don't feel it's Bentley as imposing. Then you have to mention the economy. This doesn't do very good MPG, which is no surprise because this is the top one. It's a 6 litre, 626 horsepower car. But I am struggling in the teens. I'm sure in the longer run, all that cylinder deactivation will all kick in, and on a motorway run, it will do low to mid 20s perhaps. But I mean, a 16 mile round turn to the supermarket, 13 point something. Another one was 15 point something MPG. It's not really very good at all. so that's not so good. But fortunately it's got a big tank, so you get round it like that. If you go to the lights, well, the performance is off the flipping scale. It has no right to go this quickly, but it does, and it does it with aplomb. It really is a really good driving car for what it is. So huge surprise there, but I suppose Conti GT surprised in that area as well. Another race area it's got is obviously sitting in the back, which is just the best place to be. It's one of the best riding, most comfortable areas, limo areas I know. Just with those door controls, seat controls, it's right up there. They really have emphasised rear seat comfort in this car. But in conclusion, I just find it's a strange car. I'm not particularly in love with it. I sort of admire it, but it doesn't feel quite a car for now. It's one of those things, if Bentley was going to start with a clean sheet of paper and beam down into the right now, what's going on in the world, would it come out with a 207 mile an hour W12 four-seater saloon 5.3 metres long? I have a suspicion it wouldn't. I just find this car a bit confused. The Flying Spur, brilliant in the back, very good chassis, but not as enjoyable as the Bentley Continental GT by a long shot. And if I really want that four-door practicality, well, I'm just going to buy the Bentayga. That's got it. It's much more sort of fit for purpose. So if I want that sort of family car, I'm going to buy that. So, and also, if you really want the plus rear cabin, do you also want 207 miles an hour and 8.2, 100 miles an hour? I'm not sure if you do. I'm not sure if those two go together. And also the pretty awful economy on it. I just think there's a smarter solution. I want to see this car as a hybrid or something that's doing really trick stuff. They've got all this technology, but I'm not sure this is the right way to use it in the statement modern Bentley. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, well, keep watching, keep checking out Harry's Farm as well, my other channel, because there'll be more videos coming along on both channels very soon.